Business, a person's occupation, profession, or trade. Connection, a relationship in which a person or idea is linked or associated with something else. Welcome to Business Connection. Each week, our program will offer inspiration to navigate the business world. Information you can use to succeed in any field. And we will help you focus on your goals. Join us now for Business Connection with your host, B.C. Clark.
Hello and welcome to the Business Connection. I'm your host, B.C. Clark. As you know, I interview business owners across the state, agencies and resources, anything mostly relative to business. Today, my guest is Marcos Fernandez.
Thank you. That's okay.
Marcos, thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
So, I know that you have, I know that there's ALTCAP in other cities, but this is the first time it's coming to Omaha. Is that right?
Yes.
It's been here.
It's been a year that we registered in Nebraska and Iowa to be able to lend. ALTCAP is headquartered out of Kansas City. I worked with them previously, supporting them in philanthropy and some impact investments. ALTCAP is familiar, and they've been in Nebraska and Iowa through participating in new market tax credits in the past, since really right before COVID, and then took a break and then back on. So they've done some new market tax credit investments because we are a CDE as well as a CDFI, which is a community development finance institution. So I am the market president for Nebraska and Iowa. This past year, focusing fundamentally on developing the market in Omaha and Southwest Iowa, which is eastern Nebraska, and also starting out with Lincoln, and then as we expand the market, Nebraska as well as Iowa.
Okay, and so you said CDE. What's CDE?
Community Development Entity.
Okay.
So that is a registration for impact investment to be able to do new market tax credits allocations.
Oh, okay. Oh, awesome. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about Marcos. So Marcos, I know you've been in the financial industry for years. Talk a little bit about that.
Thank you. So I've been blessed. So I am an immigrant from Cuba with my paternal grandparents as a child. So I was raised from grammar school, junior high, and then high school in Stratford, Connecticut.
Okay.
So I was going to go to school, played some soccer in college, and then fortunate, I don't know how I ended up in the Air Force, and it was such a good fit for me. It gave me direction, it gave me discipline, and so my first 6 years goal was to get a degree. I got an associate's through the Community College of the Air Force, and I got a engineering degree, industrial engineering technology degree, and then I decided to stay in, and I made it a career for 20 years. Fast forward to coming to Nebraska, I did everything I could, and my wife and my kids, to get out of coming here. I got assigned to Offutt, and we were like, what in the world? But we got here, and then we kind of fit into it. At that time, I was assigned to a wing, not the Offutt wing, but an intelligence wing. And then we kind of went to U.S. STRATCOM, from Strategic Air Command to U.S. STRATCOM. Yeah. In the first 2 years, we liked it. We liked the school. And then I took a 5-year control tour to stand up U.S. STRATCOM. Okay. And then by then, I only had like 3 or 4 more years left to retire, so we decided to stay. The kids like grammar school, Bellevue, Mission, junior high, and then Bellevue East. And then my older son ended up going to Iowa State, my daughter to UNO, and her twin brother to Metro. And so that was, we started and got here in 91, and here we are. We're pretty much from here
Rooted and
now.
grounded.
Yeah, so we've lived in Bellevue, but worked after I retired. I worked in the financial real estate, mostly mortgage, even doing some business loans, and then some commercial development, but mostly in Omaha.
Yeah.
And then focusing on the Latino community, Spanish-speaking businesses and home buyers.
That's amazing. I know that you had a long career there. And so ALTCAP has been here a year or so. And now people really didn't know that they were here. So now it appears that people are asking, and that's one reason why I want to bring you on the show, so that we can bring visibility to all the good stuff the organization is doing. And I think that this is a great time for that to happen. So
Yeah.
talk a
Well,
little
thank
bit
you.
about some of the benefits and some of the things that you are trying to accomplish,
Yeah.
that maybe all of us can help you with.
So, we have a pretty steadfast foundation out of Kansas City. Our footprint is Missouri, Kansas City area, and then Missouri and Kansas, the rural areas, the smaller
areas.
Springfield, Missouri, Lawrence, and Topeka, which actually I was involved with ALTCAP, supporting them through a veterans loan fund that they had and that they still have. And so with that, I kind of helped them expand to those markets.
Okay.
And then they've also expanded to California in LA. Since then, they've expanded to Houston and Dallas. Not the whole state yet, but Houston is going very well. And so then Ruben approached me. He has, Ruben is CEO, my boss. And so, we started talking about Nebraska. ALTCAP has been doing what they do since 2007, they actually started doing new market tax credit.
Okay.
Around 2013 and 2014, that's when they started lending and impact investment. So fundamentally, what we do is we provide flexible capital to businesses that otherwise are not able to get that
Those unbankable
capital
ones.
from the banks. Well, not necessarily unbankable.
Oh, okay.
We want the businesses to be bankable. We want to partner with banks
Okay.
so that the businesses, but a lot of times the businesses are not well established. We could be flexible on capital, collateral. We can be flexible on the projections. So more often than not, we look forward for banks to refer businesses to us. There might be times done several deals here already this past year where the bank could only do a certain amount, and then we were able to come in and fill that gap. So we do have an underwriting process that is certified, is SBA certified. We are a preferred lender, SBA lender in Kansas and Missouri, and now we're working on doing that in Nebraska, and then as we continue to grow in Iowa as well. So we want to support businesses that are registered,
Of course.
LLCs, and even startups. We have a pretty good system for startups. But the component of what CDFI calls technical assistance is what we kind of work on. We have some functionality of technical assistance within, but we want to focus on the lending process.
Right.
Make sure it's consistent. We continue to improve regularly. But then when it comes to education and when it comes to coaching, when it comes to actually working with the business so that they know their profit loss statement, so that they understand what really their business plan is, what services they provide, what products, what merchandise, and then how to break even. So we look at a 3-year projection, and we want to make sure that the business understands how they're getting that projection. It's not just a percentage every year. but how? What are they
Yeah.
doing? We look at marketing. You know, we look at operations. We look at staff with them. You know, not just us.
Right.
So that's the kind of partnerships on the side. Well, it's not on the side, but they're really strong partnerships with some organizations that provide those services, and then we can take it on as well. And then most important, or just equally as important, is once we place that capital, we want to stay in touch with the business.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we want to
And
make
that's,
sure.
that's so important.
Yeah.
And I think what happens, Marco, really is that, you know, usually people get the loan and then they never hear.
Right.
You know what I mean? They've gone on, and if they have challenges, if they don't have a relationship, they're not coming back to you. They're going to probably talk to somebody else
Right.
or whatever. And what we want them to do is come back to us, right? Because we you know, maybe they're at a point where they need just to make a really huge decision. Well, if they don't feel comfortable, if they didn't develop that relationship
right.
with the lender, they won't come back. They're going to talk to their family. They're going to talk to whoever to try to get those answers. And oftentimes it's not the right one. So, you know, it's always been my philosophy that, you know, you don't just catch them right where they are, but you walk with them through.
Yep.
And that's how I've always done with all my clients, is that, you know, that's probably why I have some people say, how you known them that long? I said, well, it's the
Yeah.
relationship. It's really not that they got money, but it's really the relationship. Letting them know that you want to see them be successful, and you know they're not successful just because they got a loan. They need to understand the whole process.
That's right.
You know, and
Yeah.
they need to understand the business. And I think sometimes they never get to that point. They just start their business, and then, okay, well, this is how my uncle did it, you know?
That's right. No, yeah. Now I have this money in the bank. You know, what do I do with it?
Yeah.
And so before we actually close and fund the loan, we want to make sure that sources and uses, you know, and that's not just a caveat. That is a specific implementation process of what they're going to do with the
Yes.
fund. You know, so make sure that they grow and
Right.
that they succeed. And so we're very specific on that. Sometimes when we do the bigger loans, again, that relationship and that conversation is important, versus just having that detachment. For us, the client understanding the process from beginning to end is important.
Yes.
We grow, we make things more efficient as we're growing. So, you know, we understand and we try to relate that. We try to be as transparent as possible
Yeah.
with our borrowers and our business owners to make sure that they understand.
Yeah.
So
and that's important. Yeah, it is.
that's
And I think that the one thing too is that a lot of times they don't have the foundation set, but they know technically they know the business. They know how to do it themselves. It's not like they're
do.
the owner. It's like they're the employee. Okay, so they know how to do that technically. The things they don't understand a lot of times is the hats that go along with being the owner. And so a lot of times when they come, that's usually where I start at. You know,
Yeah.
so and I said, well, you know, we have this class coming up. I'd love to get you in that class. And I was like, oh, and most of them are happy to do it because they know that they don't have all the answers. And they're trading on light waters, but they won't tell you that, you know. So you have to kind of have some experience yourself to understand
Yes.
and be able to see that so that you can help them be successful.
yeah.
You
And
know,
that's amazing that you say that, because in my career when I started, I've never thought that I would be helping businesses. I've made my share of mistakes
We all
with my
have.
businesses,
Yeah.
and so I've learned from it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I realized years ago that I can have some aptitude for certain things,
Yes.
but you really have to commit to the finances and to the consistency of a profit and loss.
Yes.
No matter where you are in business, no matter what ideas you have to be consistent.
Yeah.
Say this is, and I made the mistake of working 7 days a week and going and going and going. A lot of,
too.
it was
I've
pretty
done
good
that same
financially,
thing.
and then all of a sudden it's like, yikes,
Yeah.
okay, come back. And so I think that experience, and then on top of that, I think I was fortunate that I right after I retired, from the Air Force here, and it wasn't really a retirement. It was just,
Yeah.
fortunately, I have a pension, and but it was when I started my next phase of my career. I met some really good mentors that are friends for
Yeah.
life in the Latino community. And, they walked me through, they're on the financials, they're on the
Yes.
bank. And so I kind of learned. And yeah, I have my bumps on the road, but, it was important for me. And that was actually, the Air Force was always had a notion to be involved in the community wherever we were. And then I realized that it wasn't just an involvement, but I enjoyed
Yeah.
being part of the community. I enjoyed learning about the immigrants that just
Yes.
came in, just like I was as a child. Different circumstances,
Yeah.
but my grandparents came in. My grandfather was an attorney, and my grandmother was a grammar school vice principal.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, and teacher. And so, move forward for them. It never dawned on me as a child the sacrifice that they made for me to come to this country, and the value that I place in the opportunities that we have with this country. And then, of course, serving in the military and then getting involved in the community, I realized I have a passion for it. I
Yes.
like it. There's times I wish I could do more. But I think that's where the Lord has actually put me in circumstances that, in spite the mistakes that
yeah.
that I've made, and I think that's what happens as we grow in our faith.
Yes, absolutely.
And then we end up at a point to where, "Geez, I still need to grow some more, though." It's
Well,
not like,
it's never over.
And as we speak right now,
Yeah.
I just shared with you before we start that I'm actually doing a lot of administrative work until I start growing and then able to
Yeah.
hire people.
Yeah.
I do have a good staff in Kansas City. But I'm looking forward to working with our partners,
Yeah.
as well as, hopefully hiring somebody.
Yeah. Well, just to say that, I think that our whole journey is about him getting us to where he wants us to be. So if we never made a mistake, how would we ever know that we
Yeah.
were growing or learning?
Yeah.
And so I had to learn that the hard way, because I kept thinking, you can't make a mistake, but that's so true, because no one's perfect. And so, but if you don't make those mistakes, you don't learn. I hated math growing up. Oh my God. I was
Yeah.
a C student in math forever. And my father owned a gas station when I was in when I was in the ninth grade. He owned a gas station. And he owned it throughout the whole 4 years of my high school. I had to do his books. And I could not go to bed until those books were done. And sometimes I would be up to 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, and then I had to get up for 7:30 to go to school and walk, a couple miles. So, I still hated it. I don't care.
Yeah.
But, at the end of that, I kept thinking, I'm so glad I'm done. When I graduated high school, I was like, I'm glad I'm leaving town. I don't want to do that again. But, and then it was always business for me. I understood, business in more ways, even more than I knew. I understood. It just seemed like it made sense to me. So even though I worked for ConAgra, for like almost 28 years. I retired from ConAgra in 2005. And when I retired, I was on about 6 boards. I decided to myself, I'm going to get off all these boards. I want to do something else, because I do like being with people. And, I'm a habitual networker. I mean, it's something I've always been a connector, even before it was popular.
Yeah, yeah.
It was just like I connect people together. And so, as you were talking
Now
about,
people are making money connecting on social media.
yeah, and so when I went
Influencer.
to when I went to work at NEF, the only person there was Jim, and I was like, I don't know all this stuff, but I made tons of mistakes. But I realized that in making all of those mistakes, it made me want to learn so I can make those mistakes again. It was
That
like when I
is-
was a kid, if I got whipped for one thing, I never did that one thing again. So I was a fast learner. when it came to
Same.
that kind of
That's
stuff.
right. That's-
So when I went there, I made, probably 2 years, I probably made mistake after mistake. But I learned. And so now, I'll whip out and do a pro forma or 3-year project. I mean, and the thing I love the most is being able to show them how to come up with their cash flow, 12-month cash flow. I mean, and I mean, we get down to the nitty gritty, like, what does it
Yeah,
cost? What does each
exactly.
item cost? How many of those you're going to sell a day? How many you're going to sell a
Yeah,
week? Let's multiply that times four, the 20 days. And I watch people go like, is that it? Because
right.
you have to
And
start on the ground in order
yeah,
to come up. You
and
can't start
actually
on the
now
top.
it should make it easier if you understand
Yes,
the automatic transactions,
yes.
electronic transaction versus cash. Back when I retired and we had our own business, my wife and I, there was about a little bit over half was cash, and so it was hard. We literally had to go and fill it out, and this is
Yeah.
much, and then go at the end of the day with a little blue bag
Yeah,
and deposit it in the, that's not common now.
No.
And so it makes
Very,
it makes it
very,
easier. We
very
just
few
need to
people.
learn some certain aspects and of the
Technology,
process.
just
Exactly.
understanding the
Yeah,
technology piece
yeah.
of it.
So
And a lot of small businesses, some of them, if they're old school, they just believe that they got to take that money to the bank
yeah,
because they don't trust it going any kind of way. I have a son-in-law like that. He's like, he wants to take that money to the bank. And my daughter was like, because they own a business, and he was like, well, but if it's $10,000, and you're looking for it to go electronically, what happens if it doesn't get? He comes along. She
yeah,
said, what happens if you're on your way to the bank and you get hit in the head?
that's right. Or you get into
She said, at least if it's going
yeah.
electronically, there is
Yeah, or you get it,
documentation.
yeah, or even get into a fender bender, and then next thing you know,
Yeah, you
hey,
forget the
what
money.
happened to the bag? So
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, so there are those ones that are still there. We're working on it though. But
So
I think that being able to bring in technology to those who are not, but once they get it, they realize how important it is, how much time it saves, and then from there they can be more efficient in their business. And so sometimes it's just bringing those things in to get their comfort level to a point, and then that's when they really say, I'm so glad that you helped me. And there's
yeah,
so many things too, Marcos. Like a lot of people, they'll go and they'll pay somebody to do to file their business. A lot of organizations, usually they're out of town. I just talked to a lady the other day and I was like, are you paying someone because they're your registered agent? And she was like, because I looked and I was like, why isn't she the registered agent? And she was like, oh yeah, I pay $99 a quarter. I said, for what? For them to be my registered agent. I was like,
dude, what
I
does
was
that
like,
mean? Yeah,
I need you to stop that tomorrow. And she was like, well, they won't be my registered agent anymore. I said, no, you will. And then she said, okay, I'm coming to see you. you know, I mean, it's things like that that
yeah.
people are paying money for that they don't.
Oh, that's a challenge now to get those
If they
monthly
come to me, it's happening, I'm
reoccurring.
telling you. And so she was like, oh my God. She said, you're saving me
Yeah, yeah,
$400. She said, you're saving me $400 a
right.
year. I was
Oh,
like,
it is. That's
yeah.
yeah,
And so
and
sometimes it's just that what they don't know.
right,
And my
and
job, I can't feel like if I can't really help them from the ground up, I'm doing them a disservice. And so that's just me, really. I want them to know all the ins and outs so that they can be successful and no one can take advantage
yeah,
of them.
yeah,
Because we have so many people taking advantage. I mean, they get a loan, all of a sudden a person tells them, well, you need to pay this much to this and that and the other. And they haven't even bought their product or their inventory
right,
yet.
yeah.
So first of all, number one, I always say, you don't borrow more than what you need. So what are we borrowing this amount of money for? And if it's not like, if that whole
That
amount is not
is
going to real estate, then what are we using this money for? So for me, I get to the source of what you need for I need to know what it's for. And then when they can explain everything to me and show me how this fits in what they need, then I can say, okay, that amount works. Other than that, we
Yeah,
have a battle back and forth saying, no, you can't prove that you need this other 50,000. Why are you going into debt? And
right.
then they look at it differently.
That's, I've had very young, within 2 years, actually even some startups that come and they look at our website and they say our max small business loan amount is 250,000. So they ask for that.
Yeah.
And so it's like, wait, okay, let's have a conversation.
Yes.
Like you're saying, what do you need? What is your budget?
Exactly.
How much revenue?
Yeah.
What are your costs? And then based on that, we need to identify that percentage that you can afford of that profit
That's
to
right.
be able to pay the loan back. And that's another
Those are
mindset
keys.
that we have. We work with businesses, even though ALTCAP, we're a nonprofit, we function like a business. So, and we are certified lending, federal certified lending institution, certified by SBA, and we follow SBA guidelines. But we look at functioning like like a business. So when we look at banks provide all different types of services, and they charge us for those services.
services.
The only thing that fees that we have is the interest and the origination fee for the lending process. So we're self-sustained.
Yeah.
So we don't look at grants for operations of the lending process. When we look to philanthropy and partnerships with nonprofits that are doing technical assistance and education and training,
Yeah.
then that's where we go and say we want to use those dollars for the training.
Okay, before we run out of time,
Sure.
what's your ideal client?
Good question. That is a very good question, because I don't have an ideal client.
That's good. I wanted you to say that because I want people to be able to come,
Yeah.
find out what benefits you provide, find out how you can provide for whatever
Yep.
it is that they're asking for.
In fact,
And-
I'll say this,
Okay.
that if a client comes in and is a perfect client that qualifies for a loan just like that, then I would prefer them to go to a bank.
And I believe that too. I do.
So-
Well, give 1 point, since we have a few seconds left, give 1 point that you would give to someone that was coming to you for, and we may run out of time. Just
Yeah.
say just one thing. What would you say? Be
Yes.
prepared.
Yes, be prepared. Focus on not just the business of selling, but focus on the operations, focus on the financials.
I love it. So focus on the operation, focus on not just what you're selling,
Exactly.
and make sure you understand the process of what you're going to go through when you get this loan.
Yes. So uses.
Okay.
Yeah, at the dollar.
Sources and uses.
Yeah.
All right. Listen, thank you guys for joining us today. And I'll have him back because this just wasn't long enough. However, allcap.org, you can get in touch. You can go to that website and look at all of their information. ALTCAP.org.
Yep.
This is Marcos Hernandez, and he is right here in Omaha. We'll see you soon.
Yeah. Thank you, BC.